back here with another list, and this time it's for my top 5 favorite live action Marvel TV shows. And yes, we only do live action, and it's only 22 live action TV shows. We're not doing anything animated, so there won't be like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man or Eyes of Wakanda, that for the ties into the Black Panther movie and everything. We're not gonna get to those, or Marvel Zombies. None of those shows will be in this list for the best Marvel TV shows. And it won't be no recency bias, so you probably won't see like a few of them in here. Like I know some people probably will wonder. Well, I just did a review on Wonder Man. That show will not be in this list, but to acknowledge that. So here, if you want to acknowledge that and get my full thoughts, the review is going to be uploaded, so that will be down there in the description. So if you wanted to know, the video will be uploaded, right at just in the middle of me doing this one. So yeah, the reason why I wanted to come up with this list of the top Marvel TV shows, because like I said, we got 22 coming in, and we got some more shows coming in soon, and also we got movies coming up as well that's gonna tie in to this multi-dimensional verse. You got Spider-Man Brand New Day, and you got Avengers Doomsday coming out later on in the towards the tail end of the year for 2026. So I figured we might as well go down the road and go down the rabbit hole for the list and remind and recap a lot of everybody what the timeline of that could possibly be. So with all that further ado, there are only maybe a couple honorable mentions on this list. And let me just get to one of those honorable mentions real fast. And we're also going to include the Netflix shows and the Fox TV shows as well. And this is where I'm going to get to my honorable mention for this on the CW. So it does count on the CW, even though it does count for Marvel. And we're going to talk about is Legion. Legion was probably one of my favorite paranormal shows that came on the CW for Marvel. And for those of you who do not know, this show was on the CW for Fox. David Haller, played by Dan Stevens, he was a troubled young man who was diagnosed with schizophrenia as a child. Rachel Keller, Aubrey Plaza also was in here, but David Haller, he was scuffled from one psychiatric institution from another. And then what happened in that, after he was psychiatrically, made from one institution to another, he ends up falling in love with a beautiful fellow patient in the psychiatric clinic named Sid, and both of them end up following an encounter. He was forced to have a shocking ability that his voices that he hears, the visions that he hears, that led to being real. And David, who was led by also Melanie Bird in the show, demanding that a therapist would help lead his team of specialists like Autonomy, Carrie, and Carrie, each of his own possesses a unique or extraordinary gift, hidden abilities, and unlock the deeply suppressed the truth. He had been haunted by the entire life by a malicious parasite of unimaginable power. And like I said, Dan Stevens, who plays this paranormal guy named David Haller, he was also end up being possessed, and he had end up having a power scaling source of unimaginable power. And when I saw this show, this was probably the most tripped out show that I had seen in quite some time, man. What a phenomenal led show that lasted for maybe only like a couple of seasons. It got canceled around in 2017, but it lasted from I think around December of 2015 or something like that. But it got canceled around 2017, around January. So yeah, man, like this show was really, really phenomenal. I definitely recommend anybody who has not seen it, give it a shot. And I definitely put this in high recommendation. All right, so the next honorable mention. The next honorable mention, real fast, gonna deliver is Hawkeye. Yes, Hawkeye was the next honorable mention on here. This was one of the more fifth or sixth latest installments in the Marvel Disney Plus shows in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and yeah, this one caught me really by surprise. Um, I thought it was very much entertaining, and it took place in center focus around the holidays, around Christmas time. I thought that was, pretty unique and creative. But the main thing that really caught me by surprise was the amount of extra characters that was in here. From Echo, uh, from Florence Pugh, Elena Belova, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, but the outstanding chemistry, with Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld, and Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, I thought was pretty interesting and engaging. And I like the added of villains and also heroes in this comic. And I like the agent, like I like the rogue hero, the rogue hero heroic figures, and I like the rogue comic criminals that was in here that really made it worthwhile as far as the action, as far as the cinematography goes. It really kept me engaged throughout the entirety. It has a lot of comedic value and comedic moments, and very underrated and very surprising to me. I felt like it had something. It had something worth of value, uh, out of the rest of the Marvel shows, and also it found its way to be heartwarming and heartfelt. Like I said, Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. They had like sort of like a Kindle relationship, like a stepfather and stepdaughter kind of like relationship, father daughter kind of like figure relationship. One was very much overprotective of one another, and I had people in my family that have more of a protectiveness, father daughter protectiveness kind of feeling that I felt that when I was watching the show, and it really kept me engaged and really kept me intrigued. Like I said, it added a lot of comedic value too. I thought the chemistry was there. I also thought Valentina, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who was in the show, was pretty interesting as well. I thought that was a wonderful addition right there. So, yeah, I would say Hawkeye was pretty good. Out of all the Marvel Disney Plus shows that kept the heartwarming and the comedic value, I think it was one of the better ones. I would say check this one out. And so that would be that. So now let's get into my top five of the Marvel TV shows. So starting off at number five. Starting off at number five, we have is WandaVision. So WandaVision came at a time which was actually the first Marvel Disney Plus addition to the franchise after so many 24, 25 installments of films in the MCU. We got a really good glimpse and a good indicating factor of course, uh, Maximum played by Elizabeth Olsen, and of course Paul Bettany as Jarvis, aka Vision. Their chemistry throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Kevin Feige was like, "Well, we might as well just have a show based around and centered around it." Now, the first four episodes, felt like it took a lot of old to a lot of late 50s and early 60s, TV shows and TV spot specials, and it kind of really threw me off at times. And it felt kind of like it was lagging, but the last four episodes, well, mainly the last five episodes, later five episodes in the show, really was some of the best I've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and probably in the best in Marvel TV show history. I thought it was really compelling. Uh, the power scaling was really good and really was well told and well graphic. I thought it was well shot and and edited well. I thought pretty much the chemistry with Monica Rambeau, and also what's the name? Darcy, played by Kat Dennings. I thought her addition was really good, and also it took center place around. I forget it was a military squad. It was a military headquarters. I cannot remember where it took place at, but that's where we ended up finding about Darcy and everything. But then later on in the show, we end up getting introduced to Agatha Harkness, and she ended up having her own show later on, and that was pretty special. I like that about this show. It has some engagement, and it has some heart. It has a really good chemistry between Wanda and, of course, Vision, played by Paul Bettany. I thought that, like I said, the chemistry was just outstanding. Um, and there was some really good spots, and it was another alternate realm, alternate reality, where Wanda felt like things was happening center around her, and she ended up finding more about her power scaling and like how she ended up controlling herself and ended up becoming the Scarlet Witch later on in the last couple episodes. But before then, it was just very simplistic. It was very, yeah, very simplistic. It was very, just paint by the numbers and really, really center focus and on point. And I thought that was really, really compelling and really foretelling. But yeah, definitely I have very good memories talking watching the show and talking about it and discussing it with my friends. I thought that was really, really foretelling. So yeah, man, WandaVision is at number 5. Check it out. If you have not seen it, which I'm pretty sure a lot of folks have seen it, if you are a fan of the Marvel shows and the cinematic universe, you pretty much have seen. And if you have Disney Plus, you should have already have seen this by now. Dang, it's been a little bit close to a little bit not over 5 years. So if you haven't seen it by now, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, but anyways, this is definitely my number 5 favorite live action show. So yeah, check this one out. All right. Getting into my number 4. All right, getting to my number 4 pick of the top Marvel TV shows we have is Loki. And Loki was, I think, the third or fourth installment, and I cannot remember in my mind right now. But I think this is the 4th Marvel TV show installment in the cinematic universe at the time. Came around 2022, 2023, somewhere around there. And this show was uniquely different. It wasn't anything like any other of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and anything unlike anything with any of the MCU properties before it. This was taking place around, of course, around that time, but it's center focused around Tom Hiddleston's Loki, the God of Mischief. This is taking place the events after Avengers Endgame, and this is centered around the multi-dimensional universe, and of course the intercosmic dimensions and multi universe, and also taking place during certain elements in the timeline. And this is when he ends up taking control and withholding of the powers of the Power Stone, and he ends up taking it back into Asgard. Well, he was going to go back to Asgard with it, with the Power Stone, but what happens is he ends up getting caught by the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, and he ends up getting put in and captured, and it ends up getting put and captured in prison for desecrating the timeline. And so he ends up encountering a guy named Mobius, played by Owen Wilson, and he ends up cutting him a deal, whether he can go roam and remain free into another alternate world, another alternate timeline, in order for him to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. But Loki is not going for it, not buying, at the time when Mobius is selling. And Loki ends up creating himself more of a distraction, and Mobius and later on, finds out more about the TVA and what the TVA has been doing, and it doesn't go well for him, and it doesn't go well for let me. And I am forgetting that one character. And I could be mistaken. The character was called Miss Minutes, but I could be mistaken. But as I was trying to look at the other character, but Mobius ends up finding more about Miss Minutes, and of course, Wuna Usaki, played as B-15. She ends up finding more about the TVA and what they're actually not capable of, and then Loki and Sylvie, end up getting captured by Mobius and the rest of the TVA again, and because they're jumping through multiple different timelines and alternate parallel universes, and they are more or less finding more about the TVA, or they're not who they are as cracked up to be. And like I said, once B-15 and Mobius end up learning and discovering that, oh yeah, all hell begins to break loose, man. And this show just ended up getting bonkers in the first season by the minute after more about them. And what I really like about this show was it really showed you so much about what the multiverse and what that feel like, and the afterlife, or what the aftermath of the afterlife could have felt like at one point in time. How much, when you go and jump through certain parallels and jump through certain hoops and jump through certain timelines, and when you make one little particle or one riff in that timeline, and it could just mess up a whole entire, cosmic world and a cosmic, beings, and create different cosmic beings and other cosmic worlds that could end up making the whole parts of the world disintegrate and collapse. And that's what I like about this show. It really gave me all what I wanted from a Marvel show. Is, like I said, uniqueness and ubiquitous, and very ambitious with its characters. Yeah, it may not be the A-list stars that you want, but it just, like I said, it had a great story, it had really good heart, it had really good soul with it, and it really made you feel something as you leave, wanting to know more and giving you more questions and giving you a lot more answers than you would could ask for. So that's what I think about this show, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Um, Again, that still left me talking about it to this day, wondering if, and then going into season two, we end up figuring out more about Loki as far as his rift. And I don't really think season two was as strong as season one. I felt like the ending felt kind of a bit anticlimactic at times. But besides that, I feel that the show really adds something to the repertoire, as far as giving its own purpose and life's calling. Let's just say that gives its own purpose and life's calling, and I really found that to be so very well done and well told, man. Absolutely etiquetely very edited well, and I highly recommend it if you had not seen Loki. Um, Season one and season two, I think both of them were just as good, and gave me some of the best of what Marvel had to offer as far as television goes. So all right, that's my number three pick. I mean, number four pick. Excuse me, number four pick. Don't take what I said lightly. Um, all right, all right. Coming in at number three. Again, another show that did not get talked about enough, in my opinion. And again, this is what I mean by you just gotta have a well-rounded cast, and like I said, do something as far as unlike a lot of superhero-ness. Now, I was disappointed in Defenders, the TV show Defenders that came out in 2017, because it had, of course, my number three pick in here, along with Jessica Jones Daredevil, Iron Fist. But this show right here gave me everything that I wanted from a black action comic book film, a comic book show with everything put forth. And that number three pick, guys, is Luke Cage. Luke Cage, played by Michael Coulter. You had Mashonda Ali. You had Rosario Dawson, Alfred Woodard, Theo Rossi. You had such a well-rounded cast. Holy cow, was this so good. Now, for those of you who do not know about Luke Cage, if you have not seen it, I'll just go over it briefly before I get into my thoughts. So pretty much is taking place in New York City. This is more of like a Mike Coulter played as Luke Cage. He was pretty much a black man with superpowers, the superhuman strength. Of course, he falls out of a failed relationship with Jessica Jones, and he ends up trying to rebuild a quiet life in Harlem, New York, until he is put out of the shadows and forced to a battle in his city. And then, confronting his past, he has to work to bury. Luke Cage is the third show, of course, taking place after Marvel's Defenders. Now, his battle in the show, let's just say his battle in the show was mainly by Cottonmouth, played by Muhammad Ali, who was a absolute great villain in this show. Very, very underappreciated. He definitely needed to get more shine. As far as one of the top Marvel villains of all time, he really killed it. And Mike Coulter as Luke Cage killed it, because it not only taking place again in Harlem, New York, and it was centered around, his traumatizing past, failed relationships, but it also really dispelled so much about why you should care about the absence of, about the sense of humanity and a sense of reality. It really gives you that sense of hope and build upon, and and a feeling as far as, for folks in the black community who saw black superheroes like Black Lightning. Let me see. And then of course you've seen comedic movies like Blank Man and stuff. No, that's not a representation of what black and brown superheroes could be like. This is what it should have been in this form. And I felt like Luke Cage did that. And I felt like Mike Coulter, to me, as far as his acting, his range, his emotions, the superhuman strength, and again the chemistry, and also the music, the score, the cinematic score, the soundtrack just really was just balls to the wall. This absolute kick bug and badass all the way around, man. If you have not seen this, I highly recommend it all the way around. Season 1 to me is some of the best I've seen in Marvel television history right here, man. If you have not seen Luke Cage, I highly recommend you checking it out, bro. It's definitely worth that price of admission, man. To learn more about him, about his story, and about just Mike Coulter and why he played the character. One of the more popular, one of the more dominant characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel comics. Yeah, definitely check out Luke Cage if you have not seen it. Highly recommend it. All right. And I think my top two choices are pretty easy and pretty simple. Number two of my favorite Marvel shows has to be Jessica Jones. Yes, Jessica Jones, Christian Ritter was just phenomenal in this role. She definitely is born to play Jessica Jones. She was absolutely sensational in here. Um, she kind of just really had more of a quiet life, very shy, very reserved. She was very much outcasted by a lot of people in society. She did not want to get looked at and get looked upon as, somebody who You could idolize. She was very dark, very mischievous, very mysterious. She ended up building her own detective agency. She ended up building her own detective agency. She ended up suffering from post traumatic stress syndrome. She ended up encountering with a lot of villains, but mainly one of the biggest villains that got introduced that would have absolutely destroyed a lot of villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe currently as in iteration of today. I'm talking about Kilgrave, and when he had that battle with her, oh man, that was some of the best that they've done. I mean, that was some of the best that they've introduced, man. And I could not believe that they didn't use him a lot more in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It just is crazy, and just in the Marvel TV shows, period. I would have loved to see more Kilgrave in the shows, and I would have liked to see more Jessica Jones more in the shows as well, man. She definitely is up there as far as some of the most elite of the elite heroic figures. And again, I was surprised that the Defender show didn't really get the center of attention that it should have gotten. And because of the first two episodes being so light and it really didn't elevate it, but when they did their own solo thing, yeah, it really showed why you should care and was very more important about her because again, her life was very, like I said, very mysterious, very dark or very more gloomy and somber and grim. You know, you didn't really get too much, you know, emotions and mannerisms or different like character moments from her, like that really make it like really stand out. And I like those kind of just characters that really you don't really know about them until they really show their personality. And I felt like that was just it for her. So yeah, Jessica Jones to me was at number two of my favorite Marvel shows, and then number one, without a shadow of a doubt, number one of the best Marvel shows of all time, in my opinion, of my favorite ones, and it's Daredevil. Daredevil is, without a shadow of a doubt, the best Marvel TV show, in my opinion. Number one, this show really just elevated Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, Daredevil, elevated more about his personal life. It elevated more about his friends, Foggy Nelson, Karen Page. It elevated more about his character and his battle with a bunch of villains. We're talking about a bunch of villains. We're talking about, of course, end up having a team up with Punisher to take down so many people. We're talking about Bullseye being one of the main center focus villains. End up tagging along with going against Elektra. Oh man, it was just so many characters and so many villains going on with such a dynamic show. But mainly, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin was the main battle that he had, and that was the best one-on-one back and forth exchange I've seen in Marvel TV history, man. Like this was some incredibleness that we got going on, man. And definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, just had me on the edge of my seat. Just had me on the edge of my seat and kept me on my toes, man. You just never knew what it was gonna happen in each episode because it was it just felt more like a comic book show, but faced in drama. It was so much dramatic moments. It was so much dramatic elements, and it kept you all the way throughout the timeline when everything was going awry. So yeah, definitely Netflix's Daredevil is the best Marvel TV show of all time in Marvel history. So those are my top five Marvel shows live action. For anybody who did not hear it, but yeah, it's WandaVision, Loki, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and then now Daredevil. So yeah, check it all out in the list. And the honorable mentions as well when I first got started in the video. You can go back and play it. But yeah, those are my top top list. Tell me what your own guys on rankings down in the comment section below. And I am out of here. Peace.